Hey there. Today, we're going to get into a topic that can feel a little sensitive. We're talking about the psychology of having no friends. Now, this isn't about judgment at all. It's about really understanding what's going on under the surface. So let's just dive right in.
So let's just rip the band aid off and ask the big question right up front. If someone doesn't have friends, is that automatically a problem? Honestly, the truth is, it's not always a bad thing. Just like having 1,000 friends doesn't automatically mean you're happy. Society has this knee-jerk reaction, right? We see someone who's always alone, and the immediate thought it is, huh, something must be wrong there. But psychology tells us to pump the brakes. The reality is, it is way, way more complicated than that. It's almost never that simple. And here's where it gets really interesting. See, psychology doesn't just throw everyone without friends into the same bucket. Nope. Instead, there are these different profiles, these different types of solitude. Let's break down 4 of the most common ones. First up, we've got the introvert. Now, these are the folks who literally recharge their social batteries by being alone. It's not that they're against friendship, not at all. But for them, it's all about quality over quantity. They'd much rather have 1 or 2 super deep connections than 100 shallow ones. And if they don't have that, they're perfectly happy in their own world, with their thoughts, their hobbies, their books. They can be totally alone, but not feel lonely for a second. Okay, next up is a profile that really comes from a place of pain, the betrayed. This is someone who's been burned, and burned badly by friends in the past. So for them, being alone isn't really a happy choice. It's more like a shield. It's a defense mechanism to keep from getting hurt again. Deep down, they might desperately want that connection. But that fear is a powerful wall. Profile number 3 is one that's misunderstood all the time. This is the socially unskilled. And it's so important to get this right. This isn't about being a bad or mean person. In fact, these people are often incredibly kind. They kind of lack the software for navigating social stuff. They might not know how to start a conversation, or they misread social cues, which can accidentally push people away. Sometimes this is linked to things like social anxiety or even being neurodivergent. It's like they never got the manual for all the unwritten social rules everyone else seems to know. And finally, there's the self-sufficient person. These individuals are just solid. They are super independent. They're fulfilled by their work, their hobbies, their own inner world. They just don't have a huge need for a lot of external emotional support. They're alone, sure, but they're not sad about it. It's a real, genuine contentment. So, we've seen that being alone isn't always a red flag. But, and this is a really big but, there is a line. There's a critical turning point where solitude stops being okay and becomes a real, legitimate problem. Let's talk about where that line is. And it all boils down to this, right here, the difference between solitude and loneliness. See, solitude is just the physical state of being by yourself. It can be a choice. Loneliness, though, that's an emotion. It's the painful feeling of being alone. You can be in a packed stadium and feel incredibly lonely. The problem starts when that solitude is no longer a choice and it starts to feel like loneliness. So, what are the warning signs? Well, it's when you start feeling invisible, unimportant, like you're completely cut off from everyone else. It's when being alone stops being peaceful and just starts to hurt. I mean, psychology is crystal clear on this. We humans are social animals. And when that painful loneliness goes on for too long, it can lead to some really serious stuff. Depression, anxiety, and just a total crash in your self-confidence. Now, let's talk about the weird paradox of our modern world. It is so easy to look at a number like this. 1,000+ friends, followers, connections, whatever you want to call them. It looks like you're the most popular person in the world. But what does that number actually mean? Because that's the real kicker, isn't it? You can have 1,000 people who like your photo, but not a single person to call when your heart is breaking. The bottom line is, the number is meaningless. What actually matters is having at least one person, just one, who really gets you. Someone you can be your true, messy self with. Okay, so what if you're listening to this and that feeling of painful loneliness is hitting a little too close to home? It is so important you hear this. This is not a life sentence. It's not an ending. It can be a brand new beginning. There is absolutely a path forward. And here are 4 totally manageable steps to get started. First, self-acceptance. You have to stop beating yourself up. You're not broken. Second, take small social steps. You don't have to become a social butterfly overnight. Just try one tiny conversation. Third, Learn to listen. Seriously, people are drawn to those who make them feel heard. And finally, number 4, lower your expectations. Real friendship is messy and it takes time. It's not going to be perfect. All right, as we start to wrap up, let's just try to reframe this entire idea for a second. What if this period of being without friends isn't some kind of failure? What if it's actually an opportunity, a chance to find a strength you never knew you had?
Think of it like this, a phase of self-discovery. Life sometimes puts us in a position where the only person we have to hang out with is ourselves. And if you use that time to really learn who you are, to think, to grow, well, this period of solitude can actually be the very thing that makes you stronger and more self-aware than ever before. So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about. I want you to ask yourself, honestly, is your solitude a choice that brings you peace? Or is it a compulsion, something driven by fear or just by circumstance? Answering that question for yourself, that's the first step to figuring out your own story. Thanks for exploring this with me.